This great city you are seeing, Rio de Janeiro, is the second most populous city in Brazil. When you first enter the city, everything seems normal, just a big city like all the other large cities by the ocean. But if you go a little deeper into this city and move closer to the foothills, gradually the city starts to change. You reach a point where it no longer has anything to do with the city you first saw. The people of this city have a few terms for different areas. They refer to people living in the organized parts of the city as asphalt people, but those living in the foothills are called hill people. Here we see a huge contrast, two completely different groups living in the same city, and their lives are worlds apart. Brazilians refer to these areas as favelas, which translates to slums. Who lives in these favelas? As always, most of the population are the poor of Brazil. However, the worst mafias, the most dangerous criminals, and the most ruthless human traffickers are all found in these favelas and are actively involved in illegal activities. These places are very dangerous, but we have to go inside for this video. In the favelas, anyone can do whatever they want. The buildings are crooked and poorly constructed without any regulations, built with all sorts of junk. Now, why has the city of Rio de Janeiro allowed this area to grow like this? You need to understand that the Portuguese were very fond of African slaves during the colonial era. While the British and Spanish also brought slaves, they did not do so as much as the Portuguese. The number of slaves brought into Brazil was 11 times greater than the number brought to the United States. This over-reliance on African slaves turned Rio de Janeiro into a city of slaves, with the slave population in Rio exceeding that of all the other slaves in South America combined. For centuries, the Portuguese brought these slaves and treated them poorly from generation to generation, never recognizing them as citizens. It wasn't until 1888, after 23 years of slavery being abolished in the United States, that the Portuguese were forced to abolish slavery as well. However, this didn't mean they treated the freed slaves as equals. They still faced poor treatment. The freed slaves had neither proper housing nor jobs that could provide income. In fact, they were homeless, so they moved to the empty foothills around Rio de Janeiro and began to build shelter from whatever they could find. This is where the first seeds of other favela were planted. The city officials of Rio de Janeiro were unaware of this growing issue right next to them. Over time, the favela kept growing, and today, 25% of Rio's official population lives in the favelas, meaning around 1.5 million people. I think you could call it the largest slum in the world. Initially, the favela was just a slum, but today it is divided into two parts, each with its own name and its own government. That is, one person and their people can do whatever they want in their area. The government, military, and police don't enter the favela, so the favela is a paradise, but for whom? For criminals, lawbreakers, and various drug traffickers. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please subscribe and don't forget to hit the notification bell. More than 90% of the population of the favela are ordinary people who are just poor, not criminals, not addicts, not murderers, but they are forced to live there. Despite this, the favela is a large and active city with electricity, water, stores, and everything else. However, the electricity is illegally hooked up from various poles and lacks any engineering, so the wires could catch fire at any moment. Similarly, the water comes from illegal plumbing and is not reliable, so most residents try not to drink it. If they can afford it, they buy bottled water from the shops in the favela. So, is it safe to walk around the favela? Yes. If you're a journalist, you can easily go inside, and everyone will welcome you simply because you are there to report on their situation so the world can see the conditions in which they live. The ordinary people in the favela know that life outside is much better, but they can't leave because their families have lived there for generations. Yet, they are not given proper jobs that would allow them to leave and live a normal life. One of the most dangerous mafias operating in the favela is the Comando Vermelho, Red Command, which, if you translate their name, means Red Order. This mafia was originally a left-wing communist group that formed in 1979. Their income has always come from the sale of cocaine throughout Rio de Janeiro. They are no longer a communist movement, but a highly dangerous mafia. One of the most corrupt police forces in the world is the police of Rio de Janeiro, whose main income comes from these mafias. That's why, if the police enter the favela, the ordinary residents are more scared than they are trusting, because they know that the police are there to serve their own interests, not to bring security. The police of Rio de Janeiro hold a world record because for every 23 people they arrest, they kill one. This is the highest rate in the world. Some people say that the police in the United States kill people, but this is nowhere near true, because in the US, for every 37,000 arrests, only one person is killed. Many times, a politician has decided to address this issue and raid the favela, arrest all the drug dealers, and restore order. But none of these efforts have been successful because most of the officials in Rio de Janeiro are corrupt. This is a strange city where 90% of the population is trapped by the remaining 10%, and no one is coming to save the 90%. Neither the government, nor the police, nor any compassionate person who could fight this corruption. Every tourist who enters Brazil is warned to be very careful of thieves and not to take out their phone in the streets. If you do, you might lose your life over it. These are the conditions in ordinary Brazilian cities. But if a tourist wants to enter Rio de Janeiro, they have to follow all these rules. They even make them sign a commitment not to go to the favela, and if they do, they are told that they are responsible for their own safety. Many adventurous tourists go there to visit the favela, and they go on their own responsibility, taking a tour of the area. It truly breaks your heart to see the descendants of slaves who lived in hardship now living in these conditions. Over time, many former slaves have become citizens and gradually been accepted into society and have grown, just like in the US, France, and many other countries. The story of the favela continues, and no progress has been made toward improvement. We have to wait and see whether this situation can be resolved or not. Please support us with subscribe, like, and comments. And thanks for your watching.